number 6 Ohio State, it felt like they were going to waste another golden opportunity to make a statement, to win a game that could help get Ryan Day to some sort of elite status, right? I mean, you look at what he's been able to do the first couple of years of the career, but most importantly, what he hasn't been able to do in the last 2 years, and that's really win a statement game, right? Michigan has kind of owned Ohio State. They've beaten them the last 2 years. They've made it to the college football playoff. Ohio State made it in last year, but loses to Georgia. And the constant story around Ryan Day is, can he win the big game? What has he shown other than beating up on Rutgers and Michigan State and Maryland week in and week out that proves he's actually a good head coach? And guys, I'm not necessarily super pro Ryan Day. I don't really have an opinion on him, to be quite honest. But tonight it felt like he got one that he absolutely had to have. So often Ohio State beats teams over the head with their offense. Tonight it was Jim Knowles and the defense that stood up and ultimately was able to knock off a red hot Notre Dame team coming in. Trey, the offense really took the back seat here to the main story that was the defense. It was a classic throwback defensive performance.
Yeah, it was just like it was last year when these two teams matched up in Columbus. And, that Jim Knowles defense, we highlighted it preseason that we thought it was going to take a big step forward this year. The year two in that system has always historically been a big jump forward year, but I don't think any of us expected this level of play from the Ohio State defense. Traditionally, like you said, it's all offense. Defense is just a bonus with Ohio State, but this is an elite unit. They are for real. They shut down an elite Notre Dame offense tonight. And I know people that haven't been paying attention this year might be chuckling at me saying elite Notre Dame offense, but this is an elite Notre Dame offense. They're going to put a lot of points up on the board.
And right as soon as he gets into cooking, there goes Trey. Trey's having some internet issues, so we might have lost him there. We'll work to get him back into the stream.
Yeah, he'll get back in.
Garrett, I think where he was going with this was, Notre Dame has made their statement by scoring a lot of points, and we openly questioned Jim Knowles' year two, an aggressive defense. Would he be able to stop Notre Dame? And if you'll pull up that stats page again, they absolutely did. On the road, a hostile environment. This did not look like a recipe for success. And total yards, sure, Notre Dame got theirs, but holding them when they absolutely had to, holding Sam Hartman to just 130 or 83 yards through the air, that was a massive difference for Ohio State here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I took away looking at this was these are clearly two of the best defenses in the country. Whatever you want to say about how these teams stack up to other teams across the nation or how, prolific the offenses are and have they played anybody and, whatever. Tonight, we saw that when they got up next to each other, those are two of the best defenses in the country. Nothing came easy for either offense, right? Sam Hartman was having to work to move the football, and same for Kyle McCord. And you got to give McCord a heck of a lot of credit tonight. He played a heck of a game. I think really stood up to the test. Played a not necessarily like a flashy Ohio State quarterback game that we're used to seeing, but let me pull up the stats real quick. Yeah, McCord 21 for 37, 240 yards, and those were not easy 240 yards. They were, great coverage. Really had to press, had to slide in the pocket a lot to make stuff happen. And for what it's worth, on the road in a hostile environment, that place was rocking. The Irish fans really showed up for this one. He stood tall. He stood tall and did what he needed to do to give the offense a chance to win and give them a chance to go out there and compete with Notre Dame. So, even though it wasn't the flashiest game that you may have ever imagined, even though, you wouldn't necessarily say that this is the way that traditionally Ohio State likes to win. Look, they did what they had to do. And I'll pull this one real quick from the chat. I think is good. Teddy says, I'll tell you what, Ryan Day may have been bored on third base, but that final play call took a lot of guts to call. He's 100% right about that one. I think that is as accurate as possible. You have a couple of seconds left on the clock. I think everyone knows that you're going to run this thing. It seems like the obvious call, and you still put in the call. You still decide to go, off tackle and just run behind the big boy. And what happens? You get it done. You barely get it done. It took a replay and a lot of us staring and going, No, but then he pushed it across. He got it done. So look, tip of the cap to him. Fantastic game all the way across for Ohio State. That's not to take anything away from what Notre Dame did. Notre Dame played a heck of a game too, but at the end of the day, someone else had to come out on top. And in this case, it was Ohio State making that one last play at the end of the game.
Chip Trayanum with the walk-off score. You mentioned the play calling, the sequence there. Ohio State with a incredible last effort, right, to get down the field, to get in scoring position. They needed the touchdown. Buka's tackled at the 1 yard line, no timeouts, inside 10 seconds. Ohio State's got to hurry up. They spike it. They run a pass play trying to get into the end zone. That's thrown incomplete. And so it truly does. With 3 seconds left, comes down to one final play. Unfortunately for Notre Dame, they only had 10 men on the field for that final play. After a timeout gets called, they talk about it, and somehow Notre Dame and Al Golden's defense is not set. There's an overhead shot. I think Jeff Schwartz might have tweeted it out first. We retweeted it from our Twitter account at 3TechPod. There are only 3 down linemen. It is a goal line stand. You've got to have the stop. This is for the ball game. And Notre Dame only has 3 down linemen. Marcus Freeman was asked, I think the first question in his post-game presser, what happened on that final play. He said they realized they were a man short, but didn't want to run somebody on to get a penalty yardage. Trey, you're back. How crazy of a rationale is that, considering you are inside the 1? A penalty doesn't matter.
Did we settle the fact that did we decide if they could have called a timeout or not? I didn't hear if you guys had talked about that or not. I know with the new consecutive timeout rules.
I think that happened on the play before the pass play. I can't remember if that's true or not, but I think that happened on the pass play, the play before.
Yeah, but we know they had a timeout in their back pocket.
They did.
Regardless. They did. So, yeah, I mean, what do you want Marcus Freeman to say, right? Like, what do you want him to say in that point? That's a huge, huge oversight in the biggest moment of the game. And that's a really frustrating thing to see if you're a Notre Dame fan. Yeah, I mean, it's a frustrating comment. It's a frustrating oversight, and definitely could have been managed a lot better. And you hate that it's on the deciding play of the game, but I think that definitely we still would have seen Ohio State likely punch it in either way. I think it was a great play call. It was a gutsy play call to run the ball there. And they did what they had to do at the end of the day, 10 men or not.
It was a boy. You hate to see that come down to a simple mistake like the Irish had it come down to, but hard-fought game. To the victor go the spoils. To Ohio State goes the glory and the prestige. And Garrett, we've got a guy waiting in the wings right now.
Oh, yeah.
One of our most loyal fans from day one, Joe from Longview, an Ohio State fan. Joe, welcome into the show. You've got to be feeling like you're on cloud 9 right now.
Well, like you guys said, long-time listener, second-time caller. Happy to be here. Man, as that last play was ensuing, I had no idea they had 10 men on the field. I had no idea that they had a timeout. I was just getting flashbacks of the Georgia game, and I was just like, it's either going to be a sure elation or pure disappointment again and feeling sick to your stomach. So I feel good. I feel a little wired right now, like Trey said earlier. So it's feels good.
Joe, I'm curious, and we'll talk about this more as well as we go throughout the night. It's kind of a theme with coaches looking for legacy wins, getting monkeys off their back. To an Ohio State fan, what does this win mean for Ryan Day and his legacy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think his legacy is going to change much until he beats Michigan. I think that's the he could go 8-5 and beat Michigan and he's fine. You know, like that's the he's got a big he has probably the most pressure besides Saban out of any coach in the country as far as expectations. But I think this is huge. I mean, you saw it in his post-game press conference if you guys watched it. He was calling out Lou Holtz. He was fired up. Looked like he was about to just like go into a cage match fight. Yeah, he's a passionate guy, and he's had some. I mean, there was some questionable play calls that he called all night, and you're just like, man, is this going to be the same story that we've seen? And then he finally ran the ball. I'm like, thank goodness, like Chip Trainum, like people don't realize that guy put on like 25 pounds in the off season, and like he's like basically a fullback now, but he still has some good agility and moves. So like it was just a great get Travion out. He's not an inside the tackle guy, but yeah, that was a good move.
Joe, as you look at the defensive performance and you think about, down the line, I don't know that very many teams on the schedule will challenge Ohio State before Michigan at the end of the year. Does a defensive performance like this give you confidence? And, Ohio State's really struggled in the bully ball type games in the past under Ryan Day. Does seeing this defense, not just this week, but the previous few weeks as well, give you a little bit more confidence in those types of games?
Yeah, like in the past, like under Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, the defense was always the thing that carried the teams. And since Day took over, it's really swung the pendulum the other side. And it's just like it finally was like good to be like, wow, we can actually make some stops. And like Notre Dame really had like imposed their will with the line of scrimmage, but Ohio State didn't give up that big play like they always did against Michigan, against Georgia. They just kept keeping them in front of them as much as they could, and then finally got some really big fourth down plays too. Stopped Sam Hartman a few times, and yeah, I'm pumped about how they're looking so far.
Yeah, so Joe, we're looking right now at the chat, and we're going to bring up a question from a good friend of yours, Teddy Moore. We had that little encounter last time, but I have a question for you there. Teddy says, Joe, what is your confidence level on McCord being QB1?
Oh, after tonight, 11 out of 10.
Hey,
no, I'm just kidding. I was at the beginning. If this says anything, in my group text with my family, I said we need to put Devin Brown in after the first two series. And
your fandom, I love it.
It was just like get him out of there. But McCord, I'll give him credit. Like that was the drive that was going to solidify his season. I think of just like, can you? And he had like there was some close calls. He almost threw 2 picks. Like had the intentional grounding, and you're like, oh gosh, here it comes. And I think that throw to Mbuka was gutsy. Put it on his back shoulder. Yeah, I think you could just see after that when he was getting up on the bleachers and like screaming, like I think this was a good identity game for him that he needed. So yeah, I feel pretty confident. I mean, I'm not like CJ Stroud confident by any means, but
wait, you mean the guy who just started his 4th game doesn't give you the confidence of the guy that got drafted like number 2 overall?
Yeah, I mean there's been what is it, spoils of riches or whatever it is, like the last few years. So it's just been like, he's felt like a little bit of a letdown the first few weeks, and but it was good to just see him battle. I think he's going to keep growing.
Well, Joe, Ryan Day said it's Ohio State against the world after the game. I'm very curious to see what this does for the team's confidence going forward. Obviously, not a ton of tests in that Big Ten slate, but overcoming a massive hurdle this week. And now, you'll gear up for Penn State. You'll gear up for Michigan at the end of the season. We're really looking forward to seeing what Ohio State can do, and looking forward to having you join the show again. Appreciate your time tonight, and certainly hope you get to celebrate the win responsibly, huh?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks, Turney, for always giving us a hard time. It's really Ohio State versus Garrett.
Look, if that's going to be my legacy on this podcast, I'll take that with a badge of honor, okay?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate it, Joe.
All right, Joe from Longview. There he goes. Big-time Ohio State fan. Garrett, we might need to print the T-shirts. Ohio State versus Garrett.
Look, I am already mocking one of those up in Canada.
That's right. 3Tech Pod /shop. Come check out some merch.
Gracious him. How